Floss Tube. This is Anne, and this is my second Floss Tube video. Today is Monday, October 3rd, 2016. I hope you all have been really well. I hope you've had some time to stitch. It's been totally crazy for me at work, so I have not gotten as much done as I would have liked to, perhaps, by this point in the month. Day 3. But I thought instead of trying to do a sort of mid-month podcast that I would be much more organized if I did one starting at the beginning of the month, so that I can talk to you all about what I finished or worked on the previous month, my goals for the upcoming month, and kind of keep up with that rather than doing a halfway through the month podcast that's a little bit of everything disorganized. So I think it'll be easier for me to keep it straight. So my plan is to try to do a podcast sometime the first week of every month to kind of get you guys up to speed on everything that's going on here. So we have been having really, really gorgeous weather here, and I took some time. I worked both days this weekend, but I took a half day on Friday after lunch and went outside, and I enjoyed the absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous fall weather we've been having. We're supposed to have another cold snap tonight, which I'm looking forward to. And today's kind of one of those in-between days where we had some rain overnight and the clouds this morning, and now they're kind of breaking up, but once it's heating up, we'll probably get a few more showers today. So one of those changeable fall days that I absolutely love, and I'm so excited that fall is here. So I wanted to cover a few things in this podcast for things that I've been working on, and then some plans going ahead. So I'll talk about my works in progress. I have a new start. I have no finished objects. And I wanted to talk about some things that I'm kitting up and plan to work on in for the rest of the year and then 2017. And I also have some haul, which kind of goes along with the kitting up process, or in theory, that's what I'm telling myself and telling you all. So let's kind of just jump in with what I've been working on. The first thing that I will share with you guys is the Plum Street Samplers Babushka's Blossoms pattern. I've been working on this a little bit in the evenings. I haven't had, like I said, a ton of stitchy time, but I have been trying to at least put in a little bit of time on it. And so Saturday, September 24th, in the Stitch Mania group was focused on a color stitch along. It was just a one-day stitch along, and that was for Orange Crush. So this was the perfect project for that because there's plenty of orange in it, which you can see there in the pumpkin. This is where I am right now. I have obviously a little bit left to finish on the house here, as well as a couple of the windows and the pumpkin to get me to the end of page 2. And then right here, there's a couple other of the little blossoms that need to be finished. But otherwise, page 1, which is about down to there, is completely done, and I've made a good stab on page 2. So my hope had been to finish this by the end of October, and I'm not sure that that's going to happen, but I am going to attempt to make that happen. I'm on travel the end of this week into the beginning of next week, and have to fly to Austin. So I'm not planning on taking a travel stitching project because I have some other deadline things that I need to work on. So this will languish at home until I get back, but I am really, really enjoying this stitch. I'm excited to kind of see it come together. I am working this on a bleached 32 count linen, and I am using the DMC conversion. The pattern is written for Gentle Arts and Classic Colorworks Floss, but they actually have a DMC conversion on the back of the pattern. So I had all but 2 of the colors to do this up, so I really didn't have to buy very much in terms of floss, so I went ahead and used the DMC conversion on that. And I'm happy with it. I think it stands out well on the bleached linen. So anyway, that is where I am. Like I said, my goal for this month, for the month of October, is to try to get it finished up. Whether that happens or not, I don't know, but I am going to focus on this kind of as my evening stitching project when I do have the time, and try to get that as close to being finished as possible. And if not, so it goes. So I'm working on that. I have been working, but not a ton, on the decorating the wreath project, which is a Heaven and Earth Designs ornament size project. And I have been doing a little bit of stitching on the red bow. I've done a few more colors into that and kind of chipping away at it. Enjoying this stitch. I am doing it on a just natural colored 32 count linen. I'm doing 1/1 and the called for DMC colorways. So that has been, you guys have seen this before. It was in my last video, and I have put in a little bit of work on it, but not a ton over the past 10 or 12 days. I think it's been since I filmed that first podcast. So that kind of brings me to my new start. I love this little design, but the design that kind of got me hooked on Heaven and Earth Designs was a stitching shelf, and I had ordered the fabric and the yarn for it, or the floss for it, but I had not started it. I was starting this one, and I'm glad that I did this one first. It helped me figure out some of the process, or at least what process works best for me on these full coverage projects. So this was a good smaller project to start on, and certainly I'm planning to finish it. This makes it sound like I'm going to put it away in a box or something, but this is a to-do to finish project. But realistically, especially right now, as crazy busy as I am, I can't really work on 2 full coverage projects at the same time, especially while I'm working on the Plum Street Samplers project. I just don't have the bandwidth to do that. So I'm going to be setting myself up a Heaven and Earth Design rotation just for that, where I'm going to work on my new start piece the first week of the month and the 3rd week of the month, and then I'll work on the Decorating the Wreath project the 2nd and the 4th week of every month. I think that'll keep both of them interesting, and I'll still feel like I'm making progress. And honestly, for those 2 projects, they tend to be something I would work on a weekend when I know I've got a block of time. With the Plum Street Sampler, I feel like I can toss in like one piece of thread and work on it for 20 minutes, and I can make progress, I can see progress, and I'm not confused that I've put it down in the middle of things and come back to it. The full coverage projects, I'm finding it's much better for me if I have undivided attention, just can focus on that and work on those as a sort of thing for at least an hour, more if I can carve it out on the weekends. And so that's my current plan with those 2. So I started a stitching shelf, and this is what it's going to look like eventually. It's got the 4 kind of bookshelves that have book spines, and then it's got all kinds of ladies on it doing stitchy things in kind of a seasonal progression from spring through summer or fall into winter in terms of the colors. I just love this. I absolutely love this piece when I saw it on their website. So that is what kind of got me hooked on the concept of the full coverage. So I have started this piece, and it's massive. It's, going to be a multi-year project. I am working it on 25 count magic grid with DMC floss, doing 1/1. I tried a bunch of different versions. I tried 2/1. I just thought for the full coverage, the stitches were just so packed in there. I was going to have a hard time accurately getting my needle through where I needed to once I got more than, one line of stitches done. So I'm working this in columns right now, and I'm using the parking method, which I think works, at least for me and how I work, it works best for me on these full coverage projects. I can't, cross country isn't the greatest for me because I wind up missing stitches and getting off by a row or 2 or 3, and then having to rip stuff out, which really I'd rather not do. I'd rather just get it in right the first time. So I started that this weekend, and it will focus up. It really does not want to, does it? Let me move this light. It's a little better. So I've gotten the first 400 stitches done right here in that first column, and that is on here on the original design. That is up here in this corner. It's those little blossoms right there is what it's going to be at some point in its life, very far down the road. I love the color palette for this section with all those plums and purples, totally up my alley. So yeah, so that's as far as I've gotten on this, but it is started, and that will be my focus for this first week of October. I know that I'm probably not going to get, I may get one more block of 100 stitches done, but then that's going to realistically be it for this week. So this will not see a whole lot of love until probably the 3rd week of the month, when I can get back to it with a little more focus. But I already knew it was going to be a really long-term project, so it's not that I'm upset or disappointed or anything like that. It's just I would like to have a little more free time right now, and that's just not happening. So that is where I am with that. Again, that's going to be a project that I carry on into the next year, but right now in Stitch Mania, Katie is hosting a BAPS and Smalls stitch along for the month of October, and so I think this qualifies as a big ass project. I'm going to go there. It's certainly big for me. So that will be my October stitch along contribution to that stitch along, and so whatever I get done on it is all good. 2 thumbs up. So let's see. That's what I'm currently working on. I did also join the Tempting Tangles stitch along. She's got a mystery stitch along going on right now. If you go to her Facebook page, Tempting Tangles Facebook page, there's information on how to join, and it's a very reasonable price for the pattern. It's only $5, and the clues are going to come out. I believe we've decided it's every 3 weeks. She had asked the group to vote on that. So clues 1 and 2 are currently out. I did not have fabric in my stash, which is basically non-existent for cross-stitch type things. I didn't have any fabric suitable for it, so I had ordered some, and it came, and I loved it, but it was a big piece, and then I decided I didn't want to cut the piece down. I wanted to save it for another project, which I'll talk about when I get to my plans for 2017. So I wound up reordering the fabric in a smaller cut, same colorway, to work on that project. So I am behind. I don't have clues 1 and 2 even started. But the next clue doesn't come out until the end of October. So when it does, and the clues are fairly small, they're not, the whole design size is only 124 by 124. So none of the clues are very massive, and from what I've seen on the Facebook page, I think it's something I can probably do over a couple of weekends and get caught up. So that's my plan. I did decide that I wanted to work it in a hand-dyed floss, and so I had a few things, but then I also needed to fill in some colors like the purples. These, for instance. And so I ordered things from the colors I needed. I ordered from the Gentle Art. And so this is the color palette that I picked to kind of replace the DMC color choices. And I really love these. This one right here, I think, is one of my favorites. That variegated purple is gorgeous. And I like how soft the colors are. So I've got the floss ready to go as soon as the fabric arrives, which I think might actually happen today if the tracking is a truth. So where we live is not what I would consider rural. It's not like we live on a dirt road. When we lived in Vermont, that was rural. We were 5 miles in on a dirt road, so that was rural. Where we are now, I mean, we're on county water and county sewer and, you know, have a paved road. But for some reason, the post office thinks we're a rural address, and so sometimes, even though things are technically 2-day priority mail, we're often a 3rd day. So it may come today or tomorrow. Either way, it will hopefully be here soon. And so I'm excited to start that. I think it will be a pretty little, just a pretty little extra that I hadn't planned on, but be fun to keep up with it. And the stitch along, I believe the clues are going to be rolling out through April of 2017. So I've got plenty of time to work on it. It can be just a little add-on thing. When I have a couple extra hours and work has quieted down a little bit, I think I can, like I said, get easily pretty caught up on that. So let's see what else. Okay, so that is all that I kind of have currently percolating in the work on it mix. I have been working on a kind of a list for myself for things that I wanted to work on for a couple of stitch alongs next year in 2017 that are being hosted by Stitch Mania. The Year of Starts and the seasonal stitch alongs. Those are the two that I kind of picked out of the list. I won't be starting a project a week or a project a day. I just don't have bandwidth for that to keep up with them, and I'm someone who likes to finish things, and so having an entire bin of unfinished projects I think would make me it would just be pressure filled, and I have enough of that in other things. I don't need it for a hobby. But those were the two that I thought I could probably manage, keep up with, you know, fit into the schedule. And so I've been ordering the stuff that I need to kit those projects up, so I have them and they're ready to start as soon as those stitch alongs kick off. So I have a few things mostly there, and I thought I'd share those with you guys so you could see going forward. If you watched my first video, and I will talk about this with the Year of Starts part of the stitch along, I had one project in mind, but I have opted to change my mind about that. So we'll talk about that in a minute. For the seasonal stitch along, though, I really liked the 4 patterns by the Drawn Thread that were seasonal gardens. And so the first one that I'm going to start in for January is the winter garden. And so obviously I have the pattern, because here it is me showing it to you, and I have picked up the fabric, which is a 32 count linen. It is in the colorway Smoky Pearl, and so that is this color. Just a really nice pale blue gray, and I've now tossed all my floss on the floor, so I also opted to place out the floss that the pattern calls for, which is a combination of NPI silk and Dinky Dyes silk, because again, I had some Gentle Art hand dyed, which I thought would, you know, still be very soft and pretty colors. And so I had ordered a couple extra with the fabric that were, I found a conversion chart on the Gentle Arts site for Dinky Dyes colors, and while they didn't have it for the NPI silks, I was able to, I think, come pretty close to a lot of the colors by comparing online color cards. And, you know, to be honest, if it's not exact, but it still shows up well on the fabric, I'm probably okay with it. But if I have to, I can pick up an extra skein of floss at some point. I was missing a couple of the greens, and so those are on order, and those actually should be coming again today with the other fabric I ordered. But here they are, kind of all together with the smoky pearl linen. So I think that that's going to be a really great project to get started. I love the colors in it. I love all of the gardening tidbits. There's some pretty little birds. There's some snowflakes. Very wintry. I think that's going to be a really fun project, and I'm excited to get started on that. So that one for the beginning of the year is basically kitted up. Like I said, a couple extra colors of the Gentle Arts floss that should be here today. So that will be ready to start when that kicks off. I've also picked up the other 3 patterns. There is the Spring Garden. Oh, let me take that out of the plastic, otherwise I think the glare is not attractive. So there's the Spring Garden. And the Autumn Garden. So the one other that was on back order at 123 Stitch is obviously the Summer Garden. When that comes, I'll add it to the packs and have those. When I put in the order for the Tempting Tangles Mystery Stitch Along fabric, I also put in an order for fabric for the other 3 gardens for spring, summer, and autumn. And then I'll just have to see what I've got in terms of threads. I may have some, there is some duplication, although not every color is used in every garden, because obviously, you know, this one, it's autumn, has pumpkins, and it's very fall colors that you would expect, browns, golds, kind of a pine green almost, and then the kind of rusty reds. And then, you know, spring has daffodils and pale blues and kind of a spring green color to the tree leaves. So I may, like I said, I may need to pick up some other threads here and there to supplement that, but basically all of the seasonal kits, seasonal patterns will be kitted up, ready to go. I can start those throughout the year, and it's a no-brainer, right? Easy. So that's where I am with that. And then the year of starts. I had originally thought that I wanted to do the 12 monthly units from a prairie schooler that were, you know, things like July that has the American flag, I think it is, in it, and other seasonally appropriate things, Father Christmas for December. And I had looked at that and was kind of deciding what I wanted to do for sure with that. And I was watching some Floss Tube videos last week, I guess it was, and ran into the Cozy Egg. Really enjoyed her podcast, and she and another stitcher are working on one of Carriage House Sampling's Hawk Run Hollow patterns. And I really liked that, and I had it on my wish list already and thought, well, you know, there's 12 blocks in that, and I love that so much, and I know at some point I wanted to stitch it. Maybe I should just do that for my year of starts, because each of the blocks is its own individual thing. So I picked up the pattern, or I ordered the pattern for Village of Hawk Run Hollow, and that is coming as well theoretically today. We'll find out. So I have not picked fabric, and I have not gotten floss for that, but I know for sure that that's what I'm going to do for my year of start. So on the 17th of every month beginning in 2017, I'm going to start on a block and hopefully have that to finish, have one finished each month over the course of the year. So once I have that pattern, I can kind of show you guys where I'm going with that and my idea for it. Probably will do it on a linen, something that's natural or over dyed, kind of antiqued looking linen for that. It's a decent sized piece. It's 278 by 371 stitches, so it's not tiny, but you know, each of the blocks is not huge, then it makes it a little bit more manageable. And I believe that it's laid out in a 3 by 4 set, so it's longer this way than it is wide. So that is my plan for the year of starts for next year, which I'm very excited about. And I also, while I was wandering through the Carriage House sampling site, I knew that I wanted to do the Village of Hawk Run Hollow. And while I was in there, I also looked at their, I believe it's the Farms of Hawk Run Hollow. And I wasn't totally sold on that one until I saw it's one of the blocks in the lower tier. And there's an apple butter stand, and it's Grammy Jane's. And I have a Grammy Jane who, when she was alive, every fall they would go to the historic house that was in town, and she had this massive black cauldron, and they would stir with wooden paddles and make apple butter. So I had to get that. I did not have a choice. And at some point I'm going to stitch that up in memory of my Gram Jane. Just because every time I see that, I'm going to smile. I think of her always during the fall and spring because she loved her gardens and her fruit trees and all the things she had at her farmhouse. So anyway, I'm going to do that as like a little trip down memory lane for me, and maybe I'll use that as a 2018 project. I don't know, we'll see. It's kind of far out there, but at some point I will get that one done. And then the last thing that I wanted to show you guys, which isn't really, it's not a new purchase or anything. I had this pattern picked out, but one other thing that I need to finish before the end of the year is a final ornament gift for my sister-in-law and her family. And she's got 2 younger boys, and I thought that one with the snowman would be really cute. So this is from Little House Needleworks. It's the Frosty Flakes pattern. It was an ornament of the month pattern. So I have the linen all ready for that. I've got the floss. It'll be ready to go. It's got a couple of little beads. I've got those. So I will probably be starting this one at the end of the month, maybe into November. So I might have it started by the time I talk to you guys next time. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. I do now have a couple of things that I'm trying to, you know, get focused on and get some time in on. And these are really quick stitches. I mean, that's something that I could do in a weekend-ish, couple of days of focused time on it. So I'm just looking at my notes because I wanted to make sure that I kind of covered everything that I had. Yeah, so I think that's about it for this go round. So goals for October are to rotate through my Heaven and Earth designs for weeks 1 and 3 and weeks 2 and 4 to work on those 2 projects. Whatever I get done on them is fine, but I do want to at least try to work on them. I'd like to get some focused project time in on my Babushka's blossoms. If I can get that finished by the end of the month, by the end of October, that would be primo. If not, kind of rolls into November. So it goes. That's how things are rolling here right now. And then I would also like to get started on the Tempting Tangles stitch along, and so hopefully have at least 1 block, if not 2, caught up by the end of the month. And then I can show you guys my progress on that next time I talk to you. So like I said, I'm going to try to do a video podcast sometime the first week or so of every month so I can give you guys my what I've been working on, anything that's been finished the previous month, and then my goals for the current month, and then any kind of long-term plans of stuff I'm kitting up or getting ready to have in the works for all the fun stuff that's going on in 2017. If you are someone who subscribed to me based on my first Floss Tube video, thank you so much. I couldn't believe it. My inbox just was, here's a new subscriber. So I hope you guys have enjoyed that one and this one, and will be excited to see my other ones in the future. If you are a new viewer, thank you for tuning in and checking me out. I really appreciate it. I know there are a ton of wonderful Floss Tube videos, and so I appreciate that you devoted a little time to listen to me chit-chat about what I've got going on in my corner of the world. So until next time, I hope you guys have a great stitchy month, and I will talk to you in November. Take care.